So I recently had a friend ask me about transitioning. A lot of times instructors will cue from downward facing dog to bring one foot to the front of your mat and place it in between your hands. And my friend, she takes my yoga classes quite often, and I cue that a lot. She was asking me, she's like, every time I do that, it feels like a struggle, and it's really hard for me to get my foot through from the back of the mat up to the front. And so I thought I'd take a look at that transition today and see how it feels and what kind of cues we can look for in making that maybe a little bit more flowy and easy. So let's come to downward facing dog and sending hips high toward the ceiling. Heels are reaching down toward your mat. And there's a couple of things that are happening when we transition to the front. A couple of things we want to pay attention to. And the main is the space that we want the leg to travel through. And so we're asking the leg to come through here. And so if we're doing that, we want to have as much space as possible. So think about how you can make as much space as possible in this little triangle that you've created with your body in your downward facing dog. And so when one leg lifts to three-legged dog, this is often how I cue it. I'll ask my class members to, before they even step the foot forward, we'll take a nice deep inhale with the leg extended. Exhale, come forward onto the back tippy toes and let the knee come in hovering, but pull it up as tight as you can into the chest. Really arch through the back. And then send the leg back long into three-legged dog. Let the heel on the standing foot come back down or close to the mat. And then do that again. Lift up on the tippy toes, arch through the back, pull the knee in as close as you can to the chest. Because when we do that without paying attention to creating that space, we're just letting the heart stay down, the back is flat still, and there's a lot less space. And if my knee is kind of just hovering above the mat, there's not a lot of space to bring my foot, and then that foot's going to drag. And so creating as much space as you can underneath the body will invite a much easier transition. So start with the leg nice and long, come up on that tippy toe if needed, and really arch through the back. Keep the hips nice and high, keep the back nice and high. Bring the knee as close as you can into the chest, and then flex the foot and step it forward. And if you have to kind of heel toe the foot back up a little bit closer to the top, that's perfectly fine. But you're getting it into that general shape. And then whatever the cue is next, either to come into standing or maybe to stay in low lunge and finding a twist or runner's lunge. There's, a lot of variations that can happen once you get that foot through to the top of the mat. As you're learning and practicing that, something you can do to help and assist is to practice with your hands on blocks. So come back into down dog, but bring your hands so that they're stably on blocks. And when I say stably, I would go on the lowest setting, just to make sure that it does feel nice and stable and that you're on a mat that they're not going to slip on. And find downward facing dog once again. And bring the one leg into three-legged dog. And again, creating space coming up onto the tippy toes. Draw that knee and hug it in as close as you can, and then step the foot forward. And so I've given myself several inches of space by having my hands on blocks, and that will help me to learn how to get that space. It'll help my muscles in my hip and in my leg to get used to making that transition right? Muscle memory. So when we keep doing something over and over in our bodies remember. And so if you have your hands on blocks and you practice that transition, keeping the knee hovered, flexing the foot, again, because if we have the toes pointed and we're trying to bring it forward, we've got, the toes are a lot closer to the mat. If we flex the foot, it gives us a few inches more space to step forward without dragging anything. And yeah, and then bringing the back knee down, and then you have your high lunge. And you know, it's okay to shift and make adjustments once you get into the shape. I think a lot of times we get hung up on the fact that we want our feet or our bodies to be in exactly the right position every time on the first try. And I mean, ideally, yeah, that's cool, but it hardly ever happens. I'm always shifting my feet. Even when I come into a downward dog, I'm often like thinking, okay, I would like to bring my feet in a little bit closer today. And it's also gonna vary day by day, because sometimes you have, muscles are a little bit tighter, or you're feeling a little bit looser. And so it's going to vary day to day where you are in your body. But when you transition like that, trying to get as much space as possible underneath the body is going to be a key point in making that transition a little bit smoother. And then practice. And yeah, so those are my tips for transitioning. 1 foot forward from the back of the mat. And I'm happy to help. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.